From Connecticut's newsroom, Fox Connecticut News at 10.
This could be bad, really bad.
Residents on the shoreline brace for another beating from Mother Nature as a massive Hurricane Sandy churns up the East Coast with her eyes set on New England.
We are preparing ourselves for the worst.
The biggest unknown here is the storm surge.
It is both a huge storm and it's a slow-moving storm.
Good evening. Power outages will likely be extensive. Damage from Sandy is expected in the billions. Several shoreline towns are under evacuation orders beginning tomorrow morning. And wind and flood watches for the entire state begin Monday as we brace for Sandy. Right now, the Category 1 hurricane is a few hundred miles off the Carolina coast. In North Carolina, heavy rain and tropical storm force winds are pounding the coastline as the storm's bands move on inward. Sandy is being blamed for 45 deaths across the Caribbean already. And Sandy's exact effect on Connecticut, well, that's been a watching and waiting game. So let's head on over to Fox Connecticut's meteorologist Dan Amoranti. He's in the Weather Center. And Dan, you've been tracking this storm for quite a few days now.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, Audrey. We've been watching that throughout the last few days, really the last week. On Sunday is when we first saw the indications of this storm, and we have obviously been keeping a very close eye. This is probably one of the most scrutinized storms in history already, just because everyone has been looking at it from all different angles and keeping an extremely close eye. So take a look at the latest right now. As of 11 p.m. is moving northeast at 14 miles per hour with those winds at 75. There's that center of circulation right around that region. And so it's going to take that track continuing up to the northeast, right off the coast of North Carolina, and then we're going to watch it start to move in to our area in the northeast, making landfall somewhere in New Jersey during the day in the evening hours on Monday. So the worst of it coming through on Monday. Here's one of our most trusted computer models, a European model. We've been showing this throughout the last couple of days. It's taken that track right off the coast of North Carolina, and then it takes that left-hand turn right into our area. So Monday at 3:30, when you see these lines, these little white lines you see here, when they're very close together, that means extremely strong winds. So the closer together the lines, the stronger the wind. You can see how strong the wind would be at that point, fairly strong, probably around the tone of 40, 50 miles per hour in parts of Connecticut. And then as the storm makes landfall somewhere along New Jersey, this is a worst case scenario for us because this would be very, very strong winds, possibly hurricane force winds as we go on through the evening into the overnight hours on Monday. Even into Tuesday morning, we're still dealing with the effects of it, and then it'll slowly start to clear out for Tuesday evening. And then as we go into Wednesday, Thursday, drying it out. Rainfall wise, not worst case scenario, possibly up around 2 inches in many areas. This is still one of our computer models, the Euro, showing around 1 to 2 inches anywhere across the state. So certainly not the worst case scenario in terms of rainfall, but there still will be widespread flooding in many areas, especially along the coastline. The storm is extremely large. The wind is widespread as well, and it's a long-lasting storm. We're talking 18, possibly 24 hours of 40-plus mile-per-hour winds and no snow, in case anyone was wondering. This is a tropical system which will be kind of merging with some other energy, but still, it will be rain. So Sunday, tomorrow, not looking too bad. Cloudy, fairly calm as you finish up your preparations. Some late showers coming through, otherwise just a bit breezy out there. Monday morning, the wind picks up, the rain does too, and then Monday evening, the strongest wind and heavy rain comes on through. Monday overnight into Tuesday morning, that's the worst of it, and then it'll slowly taper off throughout the day on Tuesday. So I'll have another update for you with all of the latest information and some more computer models. All that coming up in just a few minutes. But for now, back to you, Audrey.
All right, Dan. And tonight, residents along the shoreline are being urged to pack up and get out ahead of Sandy. Mandatory evacuations begin at noon in Fairfield County and Bridgeport. And residents in the flood-prone areas in Old Saybrook and East Haven are also being told to leave their homes by 6 p.m. Police officers and firefighters will be going door to door in neighborhoods to make sure residents heed the orders. Other shoreline towns will make any evacuation calls tomorrow. Middletown and Old Saybrook public schools are closed on Monday. Most shelters across the state have been stocked up with supplies, cots, and staff ahead of the storm. And all up and down the East Coast, the Red Cross is also preparing to open shelters by moving workers, vehicles, and relief supplies into place. From shelters to your home across Connecticut, thousands of people took to hardware stores, gas stations, and grocery aisles today. Fox Connecticut's Javon Vital took a look at how the state is preparing on all levels.
Just a little bit more time to go until Hurricane Sandy bears down on New England, and tonight we're finding across the state a lot of people are preparing, mostly by stocking up on the essential items. Basically, when it comes down to things like food, medicine, and of course water, because a lot of people we talk to say they learned from Irene last year and they're not going to make the same mistake twice.
But everybody's in danger. I mean, that's what we're trying to say. And listen, I hope I can appear before you tomorrow and say, hey, this is not happening. But I have no expectations of that.
The storm clouds continue to gather as a hurricane named Sandy inches closer.
I want to make special note. Connecticut citizens are not used to storms of this duration.
Both Connecticut Light and Power and United Illuminating say they'll be ready. CLMP says it will have more than 5,000 personnel on the ground for Sandy's arrival. UI says it will have crews in each town it serves. Meanwhile, supplies seem to be holding steady at area supermarkets, but we found at times there was a struggle to keep up with demand.
We learned from last year the mistake of not having enough product on hand, such as water, such as firewood, such as like extra help and items like that, and so we prepared ourselves very well this year for that.
Business is kind of coming and going, but it is definitely a lot busier than a normal weekend.
A different story at hardware stores where the shelves are barren as customers raided flashlights, batteries, and of course generators. Gasoline was another hot commodity as people crowded gas stations to fill up tanks and gas cans. And when it comes to getting gas, there's a different sort of pain at the pump, because at this particular gas station, we've seen drivers come through and they're only met with signs that just say, out of gas.
I stopped and I pulled up, there was nobody there. They have signs, they're all out of gas. And then I stopped at two other ones, they were closed.
But for the majority of people stocking up, this was all part of what seems to be a routine nowadays of preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best.
You know, we take it as it goes, and it will be what it is.
So again, the bottom line here is to take this storm seriously and to prepare for it accordingly, because as the old saying goes, those who don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. Reporting in Bloomfield, Javon Vitale, Fox Connecticut.
All right, thanks, Javon. And the state's Emergency Operations Center in Hartford opens tomorrow at 8 in the morning. Governor Malloy will be holding a press conference at 11:30 and again at 6 p.m. And you can watch both. They'll be streamed live on ctnow.com. The state is also gearing up for any damage Sandy may cause on the roadways. DOT tells Fox Connecticut if push comes to shove, they will close down the Merritt Parkway and impose what's called a soft closure of Connecticut's highways, meaning no big rigs allowed. Either way, DOT says they are ready for Sandy and have been preparing since Tuesday, putting most construction projects around town on hold.
We're basically buttoning all of them up. There are a lot of things on construction sites that can blow around, so we're making sure everything is buttoned down good and tight, removing signs that could become airborne, getting rid of the construction barrels.
DOT also has extra fuel and more than 1 million sandbags on standby. Some of the sandbags will be distributed to towns. Tomorrow's Metro North train from New Haven to the 1 o'clock Jets-Miami game at MetLife Stadium has been canceled thanks to Sandy. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority has also started planning an orderly suspension of all subway, bus, and commuter railroad service, depending on the progress of the storm. A final decision will be made by tomorrow by 7 p.m.
There will be less bus service, less subway service starting at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, with the idea that the service will be stopped by 3 a.m. in the morning.
Again, no decision yet. Public transportation officials will make that call tomorrow. Amtrak making some cancellations ahead of the storm. Some trains out of Virginia, D.C., and New York have been scrapped. None coming on through Connecticut yet. Emergency crews and equipment are on standby to remove debris, make repairs, and mend any critical downed electrical power lines. No delays or cancellations at Bradley International Airport yet. However, it's likely all airports in the tri-state area will experience delayed and canceled flights in the coming days. American, United, and Spirit Airlines will waive fees for passengers traveling in and out of many Atlantic coast cities who want to change their plans. All state parks will now be closed tomorrow at noon instead of Monday as originally planned. The governor calls it a safety precaution and says once the storm passes, crews will assess parks before they reopen. Boaters at Pilots Point Marina in Westbrook spent the day preparing for Sandy. For some, it meant extra fenders, tying things down, but for many others, it meant lifting the boats onto dry land. Fox Connecticut's Mike Magnoli now continues our coverage.
Out of the water and into the sheds. Power boats and sailboats alike. The full moon tide on Monday means Sandy is going to bring rough chop and a high water surge.
You have to raise it up for me to do that. There we go.
And Willett Moore and his father are preparing to lift the high altitude.
We have to take all the fishing gear off, which is the outriggers, the center rigger. We have to put the antennas down.
What was the conversation like between you and Dad? Like, hey, maybe we ought to get it out of the water, or was that something that you were planning to do around this time of year anyway?
Normally we do it this time of year, about a week from now. So he gave me a call last night and said, hey, we're going to pull it a week early, do it this morning just to be safe.
You talk to the lift crews and they tell you this would normally be a busy weekend for them because winter is right around the corner and people want their boats out of the water. But with Sandy about to make an appearance, they say they all feel like they're under the pressure of deadline, and they say the mood around here has been a little tense.
Well, there's been ambulances here twice today for customers. I don't know if they got hurt or just like panic attacks or just people rushing too fast and just falling. I don't know, but there's been 2 separate incidents since this morning.
Not in the middle. Matt Binkowski says crews typically raise about 12 boats per day, but it's crunch time.
Been doing about 30 in a day, and you can only do so many at a time.
At Pilots Point, Mike Magnoli, Fox Connecticut.
Thanks, Mike. And sign up for alerts at ctalert.gov to be notified of major flooding or other emergencies in your particular area. Everyone in the state with a hardline phone is already automatically signed up for those alerts through the site, but you can add your mobile devices, ctalert.gov. Fox Connecticut's weather team is monitoring Sandy's path around the clock. We'll have the latest updates on air and online on our website, ctnow.com. We also will have extended coverage of our Sunday morning newscast from 6 to 9 a.m. with Logan Burns and Erica Arias. Our neighbors to the south also prepping for Sandy, but Mayor Bloomberg has a different idea of how to handle the storm. That's coming up in just a bit. And the latest on the heartbreaking and bizarre case of the New York City nanny accused of stabbing 2 young children to death. 25 dead, hundreds sickened, and now a new disturbing discovery at the Massachusetts plant at the center of an ongoing meningitis outbreak. We've got the details. Stick around.